I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm not like these other reality people. Like, I'm a real bona fide 5-time Emmy-nominated journalist. Difference. So for me, I am not comfortable publicly saying or calling someone else a liar without knowing the legitimate facts. That's where I'm standing with that. I wasn't on no, you're not my friend. I don't want to side with you. It wasn't nothing to being messy, but my responsibility for my job and my integrity.
Me a Billy Goat said I can't sing. But for me, I'm looking at it like, I mean, she's an amazing singer, but for you to sing so great and the only time people really want to talk about you is because you beefing with me, then that's a problem. Sis, I think you need to be working on promoting your music, not promoting your drama.
But she's still on you.
I'm not playing games with clowns. Like, I'm not gonna be in the circus with you, sweetheart. Like, we're not doing it ever again.
Okay, so let's talk about Tamar Braxton for a second. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and act like the girl can't sing because she absolutely can. Tamar's got pipes. We all know this. The voice, it's there. The talent, undeniable. But here's the thing that's been bothering me, and clearly bothering a lot of other people too. It's the attitude. Like, sis, why are you so pressed about Kandi Burruss? And I'm not talking about a little shade here and there. I'm talking about a full-blown years-long obsession. Tamar has been dragging Kandi into drama that has absolutely nothing to do with her. And honestly, it's getting exhausting to watch. Like, girl, focus on your craft. You're out here with all this talent and you're wasting energy on beef that doesn't even make sense.
The trouble in my marriage, I was having issues with my career. Things were like all over the place. You personally interjected yourself in the situation by talking crazy about me. But you just should have said nothing. Okay. That's on the train.
Okay. So anyway, what I was saying was, on the tour, I personally wasn't even thinking about all the stuff. I thought we was totally moved on for that.
From my perspective, it was totally, utterly disrespectful and unprofessional. What?
Now let's get into the real root of all this mess. Because according to Jessie Woo and Honey Jessie Stays with the Tea, Tamar's whole problem with Kandi comes down to one thing: jealousy. Yep, that's it. Tamar's reportedly jealous of Kandi's success, both financially and career-wise. And look, I get it. Comparison is the thief of joy and all that, but at some point you gotta ask yourself, is it really worth it? Because from where I'm sitting, Kandi has been pretty patient with Tamar over the years. But apparently she is done playing nice. In a recent interview, Kandi basically called out Tamar's insecurity and talked about how Tamar has literally tried to ruin her career ever since Celebrity Big Brother. Like, imagine being so bothered by someone that you actively try to sabotage them. That's not normal behavior. That's unhealed trauma behavior.
I'm sorry. I will always windmill for Kandi Burruss. When I saw her do that, I was like, oh, the humility. She's always been humble. But the humility. She comes in early. She don't got a big entourage. You don't got to babysit her, which I've seen with with Tamar. You don't have to babysit her. She comes in. She gives you the least work to do.
And speaking of careers, let's do a little comparison, shall we? Because the numbers don't lie and the receipts are loud. Kandi's career is absolutely thriving right now. She's producing shows, she's acting, she's got her restaurants, her businesses. Girl is booked and busy and making money. Meanwhile, Tamar seems to constantly be in some kind of conflict with somebody. It's always something with her. And look, I've seen people in the comments saying, why doesn't Tamar just focus on her singing instead of all this drama? And honestly, valid question. Because when you're the common denominator in every single beef, every single fallout, every single controversy, at some point you gotta look in the mirror and ask yourself if maybe, just maybe, you're the problem.
I am so happy that we had the opportunity to mend our relationship. For too long, we have just been a roller coaster of emotions between the two of us. A lot of people didn't know that. And I'm just glad we were able to fix it.
So where did all this beef even start? Well, if we're going back to the beginning, we got to talk about Celebrity Big Brother. That's where things really came to a head. But apparently, the issues go back even further. Tamar claimed that Kandi was being shady backstage during the Great Escape tour. Meanwhile, Kandi saw things completely differently. She felt like Tamar was deliberately bringing rude, disrespectful people backstage, and that's what caused the tension. So basically, they already had some bad blood brewing before they even stepped foot in that Big Brother house. Now here's where it gets interesting. When they were actually on Big Brother, Kandi tried to be the bigger person. She attempted to squash the beef. They had this whole reconciliation moment. It seemed like maybe they could move past it. Kandi even invited Tamar to her dungeon tour. That's extending an olive branch if I've ever seen one. And for a minute there, it seemed like maybe things were cool. But then, fast forward a bit, and now we've got the Carlos King situation.
Even like hair and makeup, when she would bring up Kandi, hair and makeup, like, yeah, okay, yeah, we know she ain't a good person. We know, like, it's like, we know. But she could never give us why Kandi was not a good person. It gives Amanda Seales and Issa Rae. The way that super chat just talking, it gives Amanda Seales and Issa Rae. You know, when you just don't like somebody, you've had awkward interactions with somebody, but it's just not enough for you to just say, you know what? I don't like that person. But you have to go on a media blitz to get everybody not to like that person. Tamar is to Kandi, well, Amanda Seales is to Issa Rae.
So Kandi and producer Carlos King had a major falling out over a documentary. Kandi went on record calling Carlos a thief, which is bold, by the way, but notice she didn't mention Tamar at all in that situation. It had nothing to do with Tamar. But guess who decided to insert herself into the drama anyway? You guessed it, Tamar. And instead of staying neutral or just minding her business, Tamar appeared to shade Kandi rather than actually defend her. She talked about how she doesn't agree with calling someone a thief and how that's a little off the deep end. And then when pressed about what she would do if someone tried to tell her story without permission, she talked about her own situation with the Braxton family biopic where she felt left out. Which is wild to me because, let's be real, if someone was out here telling stories about the Braxtons without permission, you know, Tamar would be the first one ready to go to war. She'd be defending herself and her family left and right. But when it comes to Kandi, suddenly she's throwing shade instead. Make it make sense?
I don't agree with her calling him a thief. You know what I mean? I think that's a little, like, off the deep end.
Well, what would you do if somebody tried to do this to you and your sisters? They tried to tell your story without your permission.
Well, okay, so here was the thing. So my sister did our biopic, right?
Okay.
And I feel like everybody else was involved, but I had nothing to do with my character, and I was in my feelings about that.
Okay.
But everybody else was involved, so that's a different kind of thing. So you really don't want nobody telling your own story. But at the end of the day, I just feel like there are all the time unauthorized, like, you know, versions of people's lives. And this is just a part of being an entertainer.
Then we have the whole Andy Cohen incident, which honestly just made things worse. Tamar went on record claiming that she was threatened by a Real Housewives of Atlanta cast member. Now, at first, she didn't name names. She was being all cryptic about it. But then later, she made a post that pretty much implicated Kandi. And Kandi was like, hold up, that's not what happened. She denied threatening Tamar, and she especially denied involving her husband in any drama. Kandi said her husband never said anything to Tamar, never threatened her, none of that. She acknowledged that she and Tamar didn't have words, but clarified that the whole narrative was being twisted, but the damage was kind of already done, you know? And that's the thing about Tamar, she's really good at playing the victim. She'll position herself as the one who's being attacked, the one who's being wronged, the one who's just trying to live her life while everyone else is out to get her. But here's where it gets dangerous. When you're making statements that could affect someone else's marriage, someone else's reputation, that's not just drama anymore. That's potentially harmful. That's the kind of thing that can have real consequences in people's lives. Now let's talk about Kandi's track record through all of this. For the most part, Kandi either responds when she absolutely has to, or she just ignores Tamar completely. She stays busy, she stays booked, she stays professional, and from what we hear, she's actually great to work with. People in the industry respect her. They want to work with her. They know she's going to show up and do the job. Industry insiders have talked about how when Kandi comes to work, she shows up to the makeup chair with her base makeup already done because she doesn't want to give the makeup team too much work to do. This is Kandi Burruss we're talking about. She comes in early, she doesn't have a big entourage, you don't have to babysit her, she gives you the least work to do. That speaks volumes, doesn't it? Meanwhile, with Tamar, there's definitely a pattern of behavior here that we can't ignore. She seems unhealed. She's always in some kind of conflict with someone. She's always playing the victim. And the shade she's thrown at Kandi over the years, girl, it's a lot. She's come for Kandi's singing, her ego, her booking fees, even her restaurant. Yes, there's this old video floating around of Tamar basically trashing Kandi's restaurant. And it resurfaced recently, and people were like, wow, she really has been on this for years. In the video, Tamar was making comments about how Kandi sings so great, but the only time people really want to talk about her is when she's beefing with Tamar, and that's a problem. She said Kandi needs to be working on promoting her music and not promoting drama. And through all of this, Kandi just refuses to engage. She's not taking the bait. She's not giving Tamar the reaction she's clearly looking for. Kandi has made it clear that she wouldn't even be addressing this if she wasn't lied on. She can deal with anything, but don't lie on her. That's her line. Jessie Woo really hit the nail on the head when she pointed out that Tamar constantly talks about Kandi without there even being a real issue between them. Like Tamar will just bring up Kandi out of nowhere, throw some shade, stir some drama, and for what? According to people who've worked with Tamar, even in hair and makeup, she would bring up Kandi randomly. People around her would be like, yeah, okay, we know, trying to move on. But she could never give a real reason why Kandi was supposedly not a good person. Jessie compared it to the Amanda Seales and Issa Rae situation. When you just don't like somebody, you've had awkward interactions with somebody, but it's just not enough for you to just say you don't like that person. Instead, you have to go on a media blitz to get everybody not to like that person. Tamar is to Kandi what Amanda Seales is to Issa Rae. According to Jessie, it all comes down to jealousy about their career trajectories. And when you look at where they both are in their careers right now, it's pretty clear why that might be a sore spot for Tamar. Kandi has absolutely outshone her in terms of Hollywood success. She's producing multiple shows, she's acting, she's got successful businesses, her restaurants are thriving, her brand is strong, she's respected in the industry. And that brings us to where Kandi is right now. Kandi is no longer trying to maintain peace with Tamar. She's done with that. She's moved on. She's producing shows. She's succeeding in Hollywood. She's building her empire. And she simply doesn't have time for Tamar's insecure, confrontational energy anymore. And honestly, good for her. Why should she keep trying to make peace with someone who clearly doesn't want peace? Someone who keeps dragging her name into situations that have nothing to do with her? Someone who keeps throwing shade for no reason? Someone who allegedly tried to ruin her career? At some point, you have to protect your peace and your energy. And that's exactly what Kandi is doing. Public opinion has pretty much sided with Kandi on this one. Because at the end of the day, people can see through the nonsense. They can see who's focused on their work and who's focused on starting drama. They can see who's building an empire and who's constantly in conflict with someone. They can see who's professional and who's playing victim. And here's what makes this whole situation even more frustrating. Tamar genuinely has talent. She can sing. She has the voice. She has the potential to have a thriving career of her own. But instead of focusing on that, instead of building her own brand and her own success, she's spending energy on tearing someone else down. She's spending energy on being jealous of someone else's success instead of creating her own. That's the real tragedy here. Because if Tamar put half the energy she puts into dragging Kandi into actually promoting her music, building her brand, and staying out of drama, she could be so much more successful than she is. But she's stuck in this cycle of conflict and victim playing that's holding her back. And it's a pattern we've seen before, not just with Kandi, but with her sisters, with other people in the industry, with basically everyone she comes into contact with. There's always drama, there's always conflict, there's always someone who wronged her, there's always beef. And when you're constantly the common denominator in every situation, eventually people start to wonder if maybe you're the problem. Tamar loves to position herself as someone who's just defending herself, who's just standing up for herself, who's just responding to people who come for her. But the receipts tell a different story. The receipts show someone who inserts herself into drama that doesn't involve her, someone who throws shade unprovoked, someone who makes implications about people that could damage their reputations and relationships, someone who can't seem to let things go. Meanwhile, Kandi just keeps winning, she keeps working, she keeps building, she keeps succeeding, and she does it all without constantly being embroiled in drama. She does it without playing victim. She does it without tearing other people down. She just focuses on her work and lets her success speak for itself. And that probably bothers Tamar more than anything else ever could, because the the best revenge isn't clapping back or throwing shade or getting into public feuds. The best revenge is living well. The best revenge is success. The best revenge is being so focused on your own career and your own life that you don't have time to worry about what someone else is doing. Kandi has figured that out. She's moved on. She's thriving. She's building an empire, and Tamar is still stuck talking about her, still throwing shade, still trying to drag her into drama. It's giving obsessed. It's giving jealous. It's giving insecure. And honestly, it's just sad to watch at this point. So here's the tea in conclusion. Tamar continues to talk about Kandi while Kandi continues to focus on her career. Tamar is out here looking insecure and drama prone, while Kandi is out here looking unbothered and successful. And honestly, that probably bothers Tamar more than anything else ever could, because the best revenge is success. And Kandi is winning. So what do you think about this whole situation? Are you Team Kandi or Team Tamar? Do you think Tamar needs to just let this go and focus on her own career? Let me know in the comments below. And if you made it this far, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss the next video. Because trust me, there's always more tea to spill.